the Steelers. Big win over the Ravens.
They block a field goal at the end. They get the win.
Saturday night was a tough one, a gut punch for BYU fans.
The Locked On Podcast Network presents the Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
That's 6 wins in a row for the Buffalo Bills entering the bye.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast.
Happy Victory Monday to you. The Buffalo Bills defeated the Kansas City Chiefs 30-21 and improved to 9-2 on the season, while also handing the Chiefs their first loss of the year. 23-21 Bills lead. 2:17 left in the fourth quarter. Bills have the ball. It's 4th and 2 from the Kansas City 26-yard line. The Bills are going for it. Allen takes the snap. He pump fakes to his left, resets his feet, takes off, outruns George Karlaftis. Mike Pennell doesn't have the angle. Allen clears the line to gain. Leo Chenal can't turn around fast enough. Najee Johnson falls off Allen's legs. Nick Bolton's waiting for him at the 10. He dives and falls off. Brian Cook is waiting for him at the goal line, and Josh Allen powers through. 4, and Jim Nantz said it best, the play of the year in the NFL. What a special, special moment from a special, special football player in Josh Allen. We like to talk about things I liked in our game reaction pod. I like that. Chills, right? Chills. You've probably watched the replay 1,000 times like I have. I'd have got this podcast out 45 minutes sooner if I wasn't sitting there watching that replay over and over and over. What a play. What a moment. Heck of a way to enter a bye week. Josh Allen. What a moment. Let's do it. Let's do the thing that we do here on this podcast in our initial conversation after the game. We'll talk about things I liked, things I didn't like. We'll recap my predictions. We'll talk about what's next. But, I mean, that's one of the signature moments, of course, for the Bills this season, but really a signature moment for a career. I know it's regular season, but come on. What an unbelievable moment. And I just love how this offense finished the game. 2 fourth-quarter touchdown drives. The last 2 times you touch the ball before you kneel the thing out. 10 plays, 83 yards, over 6 minutes off the clock, touchdown. 12 plays, 70 yards, 5:36 off the clock, touchdown. You hand the ball back to Patrick Mahomes, down 9 with 2:17 left in the game. That's how you do it. I love that decision from Sean McDermott to go for it on that 4th and 2. And not just because of the result and what we got because of that decision. I didn't care about that field goal. I did not care about that field goal. The last thing I wanted to do was watch Patrick Mahomes lead a game-winning drive at Highmark Stadium to send us in the bye. Didn't want to see it. I wanted to see the Bills do exactly what they did on that 4th and 2. And we'll talk about the 3rd and 2 play. Before that, we'll get to that and things I didn't like. But boy, was that a heck of a decision to take it into your own terms. Don't care about that field goal. Do not care about that field goal. Go get that touchdown. And that's what they did. Hat tip to the offense. First time in 30 games, a team scored 30 points on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Bills offense gets 24 first downs. That's the second most Kansas City's given up all year. The Bills go 10 of 17 on possession downs, so that's third and fourth downs. They're 59% converting third and fourth downs. And it didn't feel like they were in many third and manageable situations. A lot of third and longs they converted. Bills get 366 total yards of offense. That's the second most Kansas City's given up all year. 262 passing yards, second most Kansas City's given up all year. 104 rushing yards, second most Kansas City's given up all year. And the Bills possess the ball for over 34 minutes. They do this without Keon Coleman, without Dalton Kincaid, and without Spencer Brown. They got it done. Hat tip to the offensive line. I know that there was a lot of dirty runs in this game, but Ryan Vandermark stepping up in a big moment at right tackle. No Spencer Brown. Ryan Vandermark makes his first NFL start going up against George Karlaftis and Chris Jones, and they put Chris Jones over him a few times. Bills didn't give up a sack. Kansas City blitzed like crazy on third downs. They only get 4 quarterback hits on over 40 dropbacks. Managed it extremely well in terms of the protection piece of it. And Ty Johnson deserves a lot of love there too. He's become the most trusted pass blocking back for this Bills team. He's in those 2-minute situations, obvious passing situations. He's become the trusted player in pass protection, and he gets a little hat tip here as well for how good of a job the Bills did in pass pro. Continuing on with things I liked offensively, Khalil Shakir. He just comes up time and time again. 8 catches, 70 yards, some huge third down conversions along the way. Mr. Reliable. Makes yards after catch, makes tough catches over the middle of the field. He's a stud. Curtis Samuel. It's coming together here, right? It was a real rough start to the tenure, but he comes in with 5 catches for 58 yards. Big touchdown in the fourth quarter. Had some massive third down conversions as well, doing some stuff down the field. Amari Cooper, 2 catches for 55 yards, both early in the game. Set up the Bills' first 2 touchdowns, 1 on each drive. Huge plays down the field. That first catch was nuts on third down. Little one-hander sticking out his left hand. And the other was a double move. He gets loose down the field for a big gain. Dawson Knox coming through, 4 catches, 40 yards. That sail route that he was able to convert, I think that was a third down as well. Little corner route, get a bunch of yards. Mac Hollins, 2 catches for 27 yards, both timely receptions. And James Cook, 2 rushing touchdowns. Got it done on offense. And I'll tell you, just kind of seeing this game plan offensively, but then thinking about what this is going to look like coming out of the bye with a healthy Spencer Brown, with Dalton Kincaid, with Keon Coleman, with Amari Cooper, with what you're getting from Khalil Shakir, with what Curtis Samuel's starting to sprinkle in, not to mention Mac Hollins in a ancillary role for this team. Might not look too bad, folks. Pretty excited about that coming together. I think the bye week comes at a great time. Not to mention the return of Matt Milano down the line. It feels like there's some really good momentum for this football team, not only because they won 6 in a row, not only because they're 9-2, which is their best start since 1992. Not only because they have a commanding lead in the AFC East, not only because they're inching towards a top 2 seed in the AFC and certainly are positioned well with a tiebreaker now over Kansas City. If Kansas City can have another hiccup and the Bills can take care of their business, can be that top seed, getting healthy, I feel like this team's in a pretty good spot. And again, there was some dirty moments in this game offensively for the Bills. They had a lot of inefficiency on early downs, but they came through in those clutch moments. A lot of guys stepped up. Josh Allen puts the cape on. Bills win by 9.
Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
The Steelers' big win over the Ravens.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast.
It was a huge win for the Steelers. We did our initial reaction that we posted on a YouTube short, but here we are to break down what happened in this game. Elite defense against what was, going into this game, the number one offense in total yards, the number one offense in points scored, the number one offense in first downs. If you watch our national shows, Peter Bukowski asked me about it. He said, hey, they were on a historic pace offensively. Not no more. Not when they play the Steelers defense that in this game had some major plays, was able to force 3 turnovers in this game, all crucial ones, all coming from the Steelers linebackers. And we're going to be talking about that group because they were special. But I think what's truly special, what truly needs to be highlighted about this Steelers defensive win is something that counters a narrative that I've seen against the Steelers defense is, oh, it's just TJ Watt. Oh, it's just Minka Fitzpatrick. Oh, it's one player. It's not a great plan. They're not a great defense. They're just relying on superstar plays of one guy. Who was that one guy in this game? That's a rhetorical question. There wasn't one. It was a true team defensive effort. And I thought that was replicated when I went around the locker room. I asked Landon Roberts. He used the word no Superman. Patrick Queen said no Superman. TJ Watt said no Superman. We're going to play some of those clips for you. In fact, here's Patrick Queen, who had a fantastic game. I'm going to get to him. 10 tackles, led the team, back-to-back fantastic games for him, and a crucial forced fumble that gave the Steelers a field goal in a game which they won by 2 points. Here's Patrick Queen at the Steelers podium talking about the true team effort of the Steelers win.
What do you say with the totality of this defense to contain what was the number one offense when they have all these different weapons and consistently do it throughout a game when you're not getting a whole lot of help offensively?
Yeah, I think it was good team ball. I think the offense did a good job of time possession. I think defense came out there. We just did our job. We just played team defense. Everybody else did their assignments, and we just played a great team defense. So every single guy, like I said, just did their job. Nobody wanted to be Superman. Nobody wanted to try to do too much. We knew the threats. We knew Derek, and I think he still had a lot of yards. And some plays that we want back from that. I think 2 plays Lamar got out. So there's still plays there that we could get back and be better on. But overall, I think we had a pretty good day.
Now, here's the thing. I think 2 things I would have wrote one out there leadership-wise from Patrick Queen. The no Superman ball is important. What that highlights is that this team played assignment football. No one stepped way out of their assignments and made a ridiculous play that's outside of the confines of what they're designing to stop the Ravens. They all played to their assignments, and when you play together like that and you get wins like that and you get stops like they did in this game, that's huge. I'll also point out he gave a very big point to the offense that I wasn't ready to give when I looked at a game where they didn't get any touchdowns in this game. But he brought up a very good point. The Steelers put one-time possession handedly in this game. 36 minutes, 22 seconds to the Ravens, 23 minutes and 38 seconds. That's almost a full quarter of play more that the Steelers got on offense compared to the Ravens. You look at recent years where they struggled at time possession, that's where eventually an offense gets a 3rd, 4th, 5th drive that they normally wouldn't have gotten in this game that would have given the Ravens the chance to get the lead and get the win in this game. A big time point there for Patrick Queen to point that out for his team. I think that's a really good thing there. But to his point back to about the overall defense, it was team commitment. The defensive front made a difference in bringing things down. The pass rush was there to pressure Lamar Jackson. And I want to point this out too. I know Steelers fans love to rag on Lamar Jackson, but I thought he balled his heart out in this game. There were several times where the Steelers got initial pressure right away, and he was able to just buy time, keep a play alive, and avoid the sack. Now, the Steelers did eventually get into the backfield. I think they got 2 sacks, one from Dean Lowry, one from TJ Watt. But they could have had several more in this game because there was a lot of pressures, but Lamar Jackson did not matter. And that's why he's been a 2-time MVP. That's why he's in that MVP conversation again this year. But this Steelers defense has his number. Just like they have the Ravens number, this has now been 9 straight games between these 2 teams that have come down to a single possession, and the Steelers are 8-1 in those games. That is not by accident. That is not happenstance. Once is luck. Twice is a coincidence. 3 times, okay, maybe that's a trend. 8 out of 9 times is dominance. And that is where this rivalry is right now. The Steelers have dominated the Ravens in the past 4 years now, going on 5 years with this season. But again, I think it says a lot that they were able to stick to their assignments in this game. Listen to TJ Watt talking about how they tried to make plays. Again, stay focused in their game plan, but make plays on a backfield that consists of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry.
TJ, what went into the plan to stop Lamar and Derrick as a dual threat that they tried to use against you guys all day?
Just trying to be decisive, play fast, get as many hats of the football as you possibly can, be trying to swipe at the football as much as we possibly can as well, too. And I think Herb starting the game off the way that he did, being able to force a fumble, and then Peyton having a crucial play for us, same with PQ. Guys are just making plays, and it all starts with fundamentals.
What do you think it says about your defensive plan as a whole that allows you guys to deliver such a strong game against the number one scoring, number one total yards offense, and no one really had like a Superman type of stat day for you guys? Everybody
person doing their job. Like I said, we have a lot of playmakers on paper and off paper. I mean, just guys that can make plays. How about Peyton Wilson? I mean, just a huge play from a guy that we talked about that we were out all week. And to be able to see those things go from the film room to the game field is massive.
And I think there's a few point things. One, that Peyton Wilson interception was insane. It reminded me of the Devin Bush interception in his rookie year against Lamar Jackson, which was the first time they faced Lamar Jackson. But this was even more insane because he ripped the ball out of dude's hands just before he got to the ground. Just a fantastic play on his part. But all the linebackers contributed in some way. TJ Watt had a sack. Patrick Queen ripped the ball out, forced a fumble right before halftime that gave the Steelers a field goal that helped them win this game. Nick Herbig, first possession of the game, punches the ball out, gives them their first field goal. Peyton Wilson's interception basically countered Russell Wilson's one interception in the game. We will get to the offense. They were not good in this game, and I'm going to talk about that a lot. But we got to focus on this defense first, and there's still more to talk about here because, again, I look at what TJ Watt's talking about. It's guys playing to their assignment. Fundamentals, and the fact that you have that consistent fundamental execution across the board where you get those big plays on occasion, but the bottom line is you don't allow too many you don't have too many big plays that you allow because of those fundamentals. That's what makes great defenses, especially in today's NFL. And look, again, the Ravens still made some big plays. Derrick Henry had a 31-yard rush where the Steelers just lost him one time, and he made him pay for it. But in those 12 other carries, he had 34 yards. So outside of that one play, they bottled him up. Lamar Jackson, similar deal. He had a 25-yard rush. Other than that, they were able to keep him mostly contained in this game. The passing game, they allowed one passing touchdown to Zay Flowers, and you could say maybe he pushed off on Dante Jackson. But again, this was the number one offense, and they contained them very well. And even after that, the focus it took to get the 2-point conversion stop was huge. And I think there's some really good points here by the Steelers in the locker room after the game talking about, hey, this is what went into making that happen because they studied what the Ravens like to do in those red zone situations. TJ Watt talked about it. He said, hey, you see us do 7 shots all summer long. That's what that is for. And 7 shots, for those who don't remember, is when the defense and offense just go back to back, 7 straight plays from the 2 who can get in. They practice those situations. And I look at those at that and I see, man, they were ready for it. But also in the film study of it, listen to how Patrick Queen talks about it in this moment, because one thing that he says, and that Joey Porter also said in the locker room about this play, was that they were ready for the Tim Tebow-esque pop pass where Lamar Jackson kind of steps up, makes you think he's running, and then just jumps and throws it and tries to catch you off guard. And so the Steelers intentionally called a timeout to get them to show that play. And if you go back and look at the replay, that is what they were setting up. So they were ready for that. And then they were ready for what play they would switch into. And Joey Porter Jr., as you'll hear Patrick Queen explain, basically said, we're not letting them score here. I think this was just a testament to not just talent, but game planning and execution of the game planning, which goes from coaching to execution and all down the line. Here's Patrick Queen talking about that and more what the Steelers did right.
When you guys called timeout before that 2-point conversion, could you walk us through your mindset against a versatile player like that?
Yeah, we see how they came out. I think it was tackle over. Justice was in the backfield. He was wide. I think Mark Andrews was to my side too. And they ran quick this way to try to get everybody flowing. And Lamar was running to line screen. I think he was about to do a jump pass, but I can't remember to who. Maybe the guy who reported eligible. And then we called timeout. We just understood, like, everybody just do their job. We ain't got to do nothing spectacular. Just go out there and just get a play and make a stop. And Joy, who usually be the most quiet one, was sitting there like, we stopping them and not scoring this 2-point conversion. So that was huge. And hearing him actually gave everybody some confidence to go out there and get that stop.
Joe on both sides of it. But Lamar, it's amazing how he's working for against the Steelers now. Did you see anything about not being part of it, being the other side of it, seeing how, whatever reason, limiting him or?
Yeah, being on the other side, just, I don't know. We had game plans and the game plans just didn't work. And, you know, it's hard. It's hard. And seeing him and his emotion after the games, I know he really wants these wins, especially in division. And, you know, give him all the credit. He's a great player, MVP. But Pittsburgh just has a plan.
Pittsburgh has a plan. Listen to how he talks about that. This isn't luck. This isn't happenstance. This isn't, the Steelers just happened to just get it right this time. This is them executing. And this is them as the number 2 defense in the NFL going into this game, shutting down what was the number 1 offense in the NFL in several key situations. They dominated third downs. They were able to continue to win that situation. That's what great defenses do. And I know that there's going to be times where, hey, not every defense gets it right every week. Even great defense. Go back to the Steelers of the 70s. They had bad days at times. And people forget that when we go back and we just live through nostalgia. And I want people to remember games like this where they do such a great job when the next time they make a couple mistakes here and there and they say, I thought this defense was great. Listen, again, every defense makes mistakes, but when you come out and you execute this consistently, a game plan that you studied for, that you prepared for, that shows the depth of greatness and the depth of what this team is willing to go to get a win. Here's Joey Porter Jr. also talking about that moment.
They came out and before they actually snapped the ball, you guys called timeout on the first look. Yeah. What were you seeing on the first look, and what were you anticipating when he came out of the timeout?
You know what he usually do, that Tebow pop pass, run into the line of scrimmage and pop it to somebody that, sneaks out of there. We thought that was going to be the case, so we called that timeout, and he kind of was looking for that on that 2-point play, but I kind of just hurried up, seeing what he was trying to do, and just made the play.
What does it say about this defense with the amount of guys that can study and stick to a game plan when an offense has that many weapons to account for?
Man, it's just really just bend don't break, and we all got to trust in each other that we're going to do our jobs, and that's really what that came down to. Two-point play. We knew we had to stand up and make a play for our team, and we did that.
I think that speaks volumes to, when you hear across the board, they knew what the plan was. They knew what the other team was trying to do. And again, this is a team. The Ravens aren't a team where it's just Lamar Jackson. They're not a team where it's just Derrick Henry. There's so many things they have to account for. Zay Flowers is a good receiver. Mark Andrews is a good tight end. There are so many factors that play into how the Steelers have to prepare for this team, and they were ready for almost all of them in this game. And it speaks volumes to how good this defense is and volumes to how well the coach this team is and how they executed in such a big game. This is also back-to-back wins for the Steelers against 7-win opponents. So you can't say that they're beating nobodies, even though you couldn't really say that anymore. Go look at what Broncos just did to the Falcons. But this is a good football team, maybe even a very good football team. And if they keep stacking wins like these, maybe even a great football team.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers.
The Chargers are 7-3, and we got a heck of a show for you guys today.
Yes, we do. Hallelujah, man. What a great win to be able to get here and celebrate here today with everybody. And, man, it felt great in the first half. The Chargers were dominating. They could not do any wrong on offense or defense. And then the second half happened and everything changed. It definitely made you want to put your head in a hole and hide because you had that overwhelming feeling of dread that the Chargers were going to charger and lose another game they should win. Until they didn't. They get a big time victory. They improved to 7-3, and they all but punched their ticket to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge, huge boost to their playoff chances, barring a huge collapse. But today's episode is brought to you by Hillsdale College. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. David, that is the story. The Chargers didn't charger in this one when they had every chance to do it. In some way, they did because they allowed, 21 straight points in the second half after building a 21-point lead. It evaporated quickly. But at the end of the game, when everything was going wrong, right? Like the defense could not get a stop, and they were letting the Bengals move the ball all over them. And the Chargers offense was completely stuck in the mud and couldn't get out of its own way. I mean, missed passes, drop passes, contested balls, batted balls, everything was going poorly. But the defense gets a stop at the end, gives Justin Herbert another chance after he'd missed Ladd McConkey the drive before. Things did not go their way. It was all setting up for disaster. The defense gets a stop, and then Justin Herbert breaks out of his cold streak, finds Ladd McConkey for 2 big plays for 50-plus yards. J.K. Dobbins puts the cherry on top with a 29-yard rushing touchdown where it's like, yeah, is it going to go down? Is he not going to go down? Score the touchdown, live to, bear the consequences of that. And what it was a huge, big-time win on Sunday Night Football when it looked like it was headed for disaster.
Yes, it surely was. I mean, in the second half of that game, the Chargers offense, like many times this season, it went dormant. It went cold, and they had to try to really go out there and find some offense. And it took a big play by a superstar linebacker in the making, Deion Henley, getting pressure on Joe Burrow, speeding him up, making him have to get rid of the ball before he wanted to, and the ball falls harmlessly to the turf, getting the ball back to the Chargers, and Justin Herbert put his cape on, and he was at his best. 2 beautiful throws to Ladd McConkey, 28 and 27 yards to get them in pretty much position to win the game. If they wanted to go out there and kick a field goal and just ice it and be done and just run it down and kick it, they could have done that. But J.K. Dobbins had other ideas. He said he spoke to the running backs coach and he spoke to Bradley Bozeman, and they both just said, hey, F it, go score. I don't care. Let's go put the exclamation point on this performance here. Let's leave as little time as possible for them to try to come back. And that's exactly what they did. A beautifully blocked run to the left side where J.K. Dobbins finishes it by leaping into the end zone and giving the Bengals only 18 seconds to try to come back and win this game, and they cannot.
Absolutely. I mean, it was awesome to see them break through at the end, especially because the Bengals sent everyone, and everybody in that building knew that J.K. Dobbins was getting that football, and he still found a way to break 4 tackles, get into the end zone anyways. And I just thought it was great and very symbolic of just where the Chargers have come from and them not being too small in the biggest moment in the game on both sides of the football. I thought that was just great. And I think for a team in a locker room that's had a lot of guys who have gone through those devastating losses as much as the fans have and have taken it harder even than them.
Yeah.
To have everything going this direction, to have players like Joey Bosa say, hey, we still feel like, I still felt like it was going to collapse. But then to have it not collapse and to come through and shine in those big moments on prime time when you've had what the Chargers have had in their past, a huge step in the right direction as far as where this culture wants to go and the Chargers putting an end to charging. Is it going to happen? Did it feel like it was going to happen? Yeah, it could happen. But these are games the Chargers lose in the past. So they did catch a couple breaks. The Bengals missed 2 field goals. That Chargers won by 7, so I don't care that much. And I think that big thing here, Jim Harbaugh called for these fans to go out to this game. The Chargers fans showed up in a big way, a huge Chargers presence, a home field advantage. Those fans could have gotten sent home with the worst possible taste in their mouth and no reason to go back and potentially have their heart broken in person again. They came through, and it was a huge win for their playoff standings just for this team, and I think for their belief that they can go up against a guy like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and come away with the win. But let's talk about Justin Herbert, because it was a really weird game from him. 10 for 14, 183 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first half. And then suddenly he's ice cold, right? Balls are getting batted at the line of scrimmage. You have, a couple of bad drops, right? You have all of these things starting to go wrong. And it's hard. It's easy to forget how good he was in the first pass, David. Running the football, multiple 29+ yard runs. He's made crazy throws to Quentin Johnson, running up, sucking the defense in, hitting them over the top. A crazy throw to Will Dissly. He was unbelievably hot and then got unbelievably cold.
Yeah, no, he was absolutely locked in the first half. I mean, some of the throws that he was making is okay, Justin Herbert is establishing himself in the MVP conversation. Yeah, I know he doesn't have a lot of the big, sexy yardage and the touchdowns, but, he's got 13 touchdowns to 1 interception. That's spectacular play from Justin Herbert. And, in the first half, it just felt like he couldn't do any wrong. He was throwing it all over the yard, hitting everybody, and in the second half, to the Bengals' credit, they made some changes, took some corners out, put some other younger guys in, and they were able to come up with some better production. And the second half was ugly. The first half was great, but the second half was 5 punts, 1 field goal, and a lost fumble that the Chargers had to overcome to be able to put themselves in position to win the game. And man, it was looking really bad, bad till that last drive, and then Justin Herbert found it again and really, really put the team on his back, put the Chargers in position to go win the game, and that's exactly what they were able to do.
And it's really hard to criticize him, for the cold streak, because there were some weird moments in it. Like I said, a couple drops, a couple batted balls, things like that. Just a couple missed throws, like Vlad McConkey wide open the play before they went and drove and got that game-winning touchdown.
Very
uncharacteristic. And I think he tried to aim it a little bit just because he was so wide open. He just wanted to loft it, didn't want to try to laser it into him. But still, I mean, I think if Vlad hadn't hurt his shoulder, he probably catches it anyways.
Probably.
But there was just a couple plays like that. One just out of the reach of Quentin Johnson. I did not like that they just decided that, hey, we're just going to throw the ball down the sideline to Quentin Johnson. 2 catches on 8 targets. I didn't think Quentin Johnson was bad necessarily. I just didn't like the usage of him. Yeah. That's not what his game is, and he doesn't attack the football well in those situations. He's not going back to the quarterback, going up to get it. That's what's so impressive about someone like Vlad McConkey, which we'll talk about. But for Justin Herbert, you saw, even in this game, we're talking about flashy stats, the completion percentage sucks in this game. It's spiky, throwaway, stuff like that too. But we're looking at, 350 yards of offense from this dude as well, right? So it's he's putting up the stats. That was a really bad turnover by him. He has to get down that situation. You have to know when to fight those battles. It was nice to see him bowl somebody over, but that's a good learning experience for him, and he's very smart, and that's going to be something that he keeps with him. But, man, what can you say about Vlad McConkey here, David? I mean, Chargers wide receiver 1 going off on this game the way he did.
6 catches, 123 yards, a long of 28, 20.5 yards per reception for Vlad McConkey. He was a big play freak in this game. And second career 100-plus yard receiving game. And like I said, the big 28, 27-yard receptions that really put the Chargers in position to win this game.
They don't win it without Vlad McConkey. And Vlad McConkey, for Justin Herbert, just to even trust him in those moments, in the biggest moments of the game, knowing the game's on the line, and for him to go back, to him back-to-back in those big opportunities. I just love the way that he attacks the football too, man. You lob it up to him on that last drive, maybe a little bit underthrown. He comes back to the football, high points it. Great play. And then just how open he got in that scenario at the end of a game to put the Chargers in field goal range. That was the game right there. The Chargers likely would have won it. But what did we see in the Broncos-Chiefs game? What did we see in the Packers-Bears game? Those field goals aren't sure things. And you can still, lose on a blocked field goal as well.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. You could bet on Monday Night Football. The Houston Texans travel across the state to face the beleaguered Dallas Cowboys. 7-point favorites at Jerry World. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. They block a field goal at the end. They get the win.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast.
But let's start with this Green Bay Packers offense. It was not by any means perfect. But by my count, just a single drop in this game. That is a significant improvement from what we've seen so far this season. The Packers against a top 5 defense. A top 5 defense. This Packers team averaged 8.5 yards per play. Depending on what metrics you're looking right now. 13th by DVOA, but there are other metrics that say the Chicago Bears are a top 5, top 10 kind of defense, and they are the #1 red zone defense. That showed up in this football game. And that's the thing right now for the Packers is they are so close. They are so painfully close. And it is painful, and that's what makes this so frustrating, because to put up 8.5 yards per play against this defense is nothing short of remarkable. They move the ball up and down the field on this team. And you lose a red zone trip in the low red zone because you go for it on 4th down. Jordan Love decides to try and take off. really can't do that there. You have to try and make a throw. Like there was just no way he was going to run it in there. I know he got down to the 1, but that was really only because the bodies took an extra split second to converge on him. He was not going to make that play. And then you throw an interception in the red zone. That's another Jordan Love mistake. Now there's also 2nd and 1, they go RPO. And instead of throwing the ball immediately, Love holds it for a second. They get a body downfield. Those offensive linemen don't know. They don't know if the ball's been thrown or if the running back has it. So they can't know not to be downfield. Jordan Love has to have the situational awareness to get that out. And then the play calling. I didn't like the 2nd and 6 play calling. I didn't like the 2-point conversion play calling. I thought there was some overly conservative play calling in this game at various times. And yet, Jordan Love, Christian Watson, more on him later, with the game on the line, they march right down the field and score the game-winning touchdown. After the Bears made it a 13-7 game, the Packers right down the field. I mean, come right down the field. 6 plays, 70 yards in less than 4 minutes. They come right back down and score. When they needed to get the offense, they manufactured the offense. 19 first downs in this football game. Now, they weren't great on 3rd down. But again, 8.5 yards per play is ridiculous. Jordan Love averaged he did average over 15 yards per an attempt. 15 yards per attempt against a top 5 Bears passing defense. I know this is one of the worst run defenses in the league, and that showed again today. The Packers, 106 yards on 25 carries, over 4 yards a carry, 2 rushing touchdowns, including the Jordan Love QB sneak. Jordan Love, it was really just one throw in this game. And this is the thing about where this offense is right now. They are 1 to 5 plays a game away from absolute explosion. Like that interception turns out to be a 14-point interception because you throw the pick. It's at least a 10-point interception because you throw the pick, you give up the points, and then the Bears come out of halftime and get points. If they can just, and again, this is self-inflicted stuff. If they can just cut that stuff down, it makes a world of difference. This game is like 2 red zone trips to come away from 2 red zone trips with 0 points. When in 2 other red zone trips, you get touchdowns. The Packers move the ball at will in this game, but could not once again, convert in the red zone. 3 of 5 in the red zone, except the 2 that they didn't convert, they gave the ball away. 5 red zone trips against this Bears defense is damn impressive. 8.5 yards per play against this Bears defense. 15 yards per pass attempt against this Bears defense is damn impressive. There have been so many times this season where I have said, aside from one throw, Jordan Love was excellent in this game. Against the Vikings, it was like aside from 3 throws. But he's still, it's the wow plays are still there. Step up in the play, step up in the pocket. First drive, step up and escape to the right, make a throw on the run to Romeo Doubs. Those were plays that he could not make when he was hurt. Long run to set up the game-winning points could not have happened with the old injuries. And I thought Tom Brady did an excellent job of explaining, hey, look, when your lower body is not right, it's in the pocket movement too. That 3rd down, that 3rd and long throw to Christian Watson early in the game, where he's stepping up, avoiding pressure, doesn't panic, and then throws a laser beam on Christian Watson's chest. Those were the plays that he couldn't make most of the season because your lower body, when it's not underneath you, you just don't have that same sort of flexibility. So even with the interception, and this is why I've been telling you all year, I don't really care that much about the interception. Even with the interception, 13 of 17 for 261, a touchdown, another rushing touchdown, a 113 quarterback rating, and that's with the interception. Jordan Love was not the reason that this game was close in a lot of ways. But at the same time, in terms of like, he's not the reason that the Bears played up to the Packers level. The interception was a huge one. It's one of the biggest ones that Jordan Love, frankly, has ever thrown in terms of momentum killing plays. And it is also a weird one for Love because he doesn't usually throw interceptions with ball placement. Even some where the ball placement isn't very good, it's usually the decision that dooms the throw. This was not a bad decision. This was a great decision. In fact, if he puts that ball on Tucker Kraft, he might score. But that's not what happened. So that's what I mean. The Packers got everything. This was the Josh Jacobs game in terms of everything that he brings to bear. 18 for 76 on the ground with a touchdown. He had 4 for 58 in the passing game, a couple really nice plays in the passing game. This was the game that I've been calling for since before the bye. When we did that self-scout, I said the Packers need to lean into their best players. That's Josh Jacobs. He had 18 carries. No other running back had more than 2, and it was Emmanuel Wilson, not Chris Brooks. Christian Watson, he didn't lead the team in targets, but he led receivers in targets. Dontavion Wicks got 1 target. Bo Melton got 0. Malik Heath in for like 1 or 2 snaps. Now, the problem is one of those snaps was an obvious in the red zone play where it's like, if you have Bo Melton and Malik Heath on the field together, yeah, of course it's going to be a run. Why would you throw it if those are your receivers? You got to go play action. Or you just have to not have to do that. You just have to not do that. I mean, that's easy enough too. So this Packers team, it's great to get the win, and you never apologize for a win. And I'm not going to do that. But this is so close, this offense. You go back to, I keep thinking about the week 1 game. Like they sleepwalked to 400 yards of offense. This team is so freaking talented that if they're moving in the right direction to me, they're moving forward. This was, in terms of the shape of what they're trying to get accomplished on offense, I thought the best we've seen the offense. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKED ON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs.
All right, Clint, let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. We mentioned the offensive line again. We all know how we feel about Carson Beck's performance. You know how this podcast feels about the way Mike Bobo performed in this game. You also know the way that this podcast feels about Arian Smith. And so there's no need for us to revisit any of these topics.
Listeners of the podcast know I have one name that I will never utter again in my entire life because of a blown coverage. There are now 2 names.
We're up to 2.
I will not ever repeat.
We up to 2. So there's no need to belabor the points on the offensive side of the ball any longer, but we didn't spend too much time on the overreaction show talking about the defense. Maybe not enough time. We did mention that Josh Heupel only mustered up 17 points. Has never scored 20 points against Kirby Smart in the history of his career. We did mention that Tennessee was held to 7 points after the first quarter and 0 points in the second half. We did mention that the game plan and the adjustments and the coaching edge check, all went to the University of Georgia in this matchup. Kirby Smart has been outcoached. Glenn Schumann has been outcoached multiple times this season. He did not get outcoached. Now, the game plan coming out of the gate was solid, and Tennessee, to their credit, was able to sustain a couple of early drives that were lengthy and just slowly and methodically move the ball down the field. We have long since said on this podcast, Clint, that is not the way that you're going to beat Georgia. If you can't generate any explosive plays, you're not going to be able to beat this Georgia team. Tennessee had exactly 0 explosive plays in the game, really only attempted a few downfield shots. Credit to Georgia's safeties. I mean, I thought really the players of the game on the defensive side of the ball were KJ Bolden and Dan Jackson and Malachi Starks. Like those guys played exceptionally well, Clint.
Michael Williams did fine. Jalen Walker did fine. The defensive line did fine. The cornerbacks, once we switched out, were fine. They all played in their lanes. They played their positions. We blitzed a few times. We've already given flowers to Christian Miller, who on the play in which Smile Mondon coming back, we probably didn't talk enough about Smile Mondon's play. He'd probably be the fourth. The 3 best were the safeties, and then the 4th was Smile Mondon right in there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because his athleticism and speed, the threat of that changed everything. Christian Miller
Which was
steps
great
up.
to see, by the way, because we'll get into the safeties in a second. But Smile, even before the injury, Smile's play, a little bit of the shine had come off for whatever reason. I think the CJ Allen emergence and these true freshmen going into true sophomores now. And then you got guys like Chris Cole coming along and everybody's excited about them. I think there's a little bit of like the Smile Mondon had become a little bit of the forgotten guy.
We had a great thing, and we had forgotten just how great of a thing we had in him.
Well, he reminded us.
Quite exceptional. He reminded us in a great deal.
Yeah, right.
But the 3 safeties, we said last week, we needed Malachi Starks to possibly play a little star closer to the line. We saw Dan Jackson take a little bit of that. We saw KJ Bolden take a little bit of that. It was really more of a last year's 3 safeties with Dan Jackson and the Smith brothers back there. It was a little more reminiscent of that. Aguero, by the way.
John and Michael were back at safety. Is that what you're saying?
They were not.
Not those Smith brothers.
No, not those Smith brothers. Those guys are keeping us safe from a lot.
Those brothers do know best. Just so
those brothers know best, and go check out that pod.
Best. If you Google that, I think you'll be happy with
They're
it.
They're going to keep you safe from dehydration. Is what they're going to keep you safe from. Okay.
Water, M-dubs. I'm still waiting on that water. So you're not keeping everybody safe. I'll tell you that right now.
The 3 safeties. Aguero did not play the star position at all this game.
He was in. I noticed him one time, and I was not happy about it.
Neither was the coaching staff. Him and Humphreys are sharing a doghouse. The cubicle and the door and that forgotten wing of the office is shared by them, and they're not going to be coming out until they understand. But KJ Bolden stepped up his game. Malachi Starks, I thought, played an exceptional game in coverage. I saw him breaking on the ball many, many times, getting in between lanes.
Physical tackling too from Malachi Starks. Physical tackling.
The thing that I was going to say, speed has never been a question with him. He can close the gap very quickly. It's when he gets there, is he able to bring the pain and bring the hips and tackle? And I thought he did a great job in this game for what he was asked to do. Fill in the alley. Dan Jackson, I think, missed a couple of tackles, but disrupted the play enough that other guys rallied around and did just fine.
Hey, just quick question from the gallery. Did he miss them fast or slow? When he was missing those tackles, was he moving quickly or was he moving slowly?
I don't care. Dan, you keep being you. I'm nitpicking now. That's what I think is phenomenal. Dan Jackson went from a walk-on forgotten safety to now I am nitpicking him for missing tackles that he should make because he is coming down, flying down, and not being cautious, not being safe, not second guessing, coming flying to the football, which is what you want to see out of every single one of those defenders. And we're seeing it a great deal. And I think, again, the other thing I saw that we should not miss is the health of this defense getting more and more. Smile Mondon's presence is going to change. I anticipate a change at cornerback for the foreseeable future. I think Harris is going to be in there for some time unless something drastically changes.
And the rotation at corner, I think you're going to see it continue to decrease. Like unless something goes awry, I don't see Ellis. I mean, Ellis Robinson is going to get a lot of run this week. Okay. He's going to get,
here we go.
Everybody's going to get a lot of run this week. So I'm fine with that. But in these big games, I think it's Dalen Everett and Daniel Harris. Like, I think that's what's going to be gone with. I think this coaching staff knows that we are better when Dan Jackson, KJ Bolden, and Malachi Starks are all on the field. And so
that's our best defense.
Unless you're in the dime, those are your 5 DBs. Like, those are the guys that are going to be on the field. When you're in the dime package, yeah, you're going to throw Aguero out there. Maybe you're going to bring, Julio back in, like, for those plays. Georgia doesn't run a lot of that. And so I think that's what you're going to see. And then you're going to continue to see those 4 guys rotate at inside backer: CJ, Raylan, Smile, and Chris Cole. And I think you're going to continue to see that rotation. We know what we are up front. And so not only is the defense getting healthier, Clint, but I think solidifying who they are and where they belong, the continuity is really starting to show.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. You could bet on Monday Night Football. The Houston Texans travel across the state to face the beleaguered Dallas Cowboys. 7-point favorites at Jerry World. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Saturday night was a tough one, a gut punch for BYU fans.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars.
The BYU, for the first time seemingly all season long, did not play what they have been calling complementary football. 2 sides of the ball felt like they were playing complementary football. Those would be the special teams and the defense. You look at the statistics, they're undeniable. I'll just, Gregor Bell threw this out, and I'll quote him on this. How good was BYU's defense in this game? Well, they allowed Kansas to a season-low 242 yards. A previous low was 319 yards. A season-low 73 rushing yards. A previous low was more than double that at 151. A season-low tying 17 points scored. A season-low 13 first downs. A previous low in that department was 17. A season-low 52 plays overall. See, the previous low was 54. And then a season-low of 33% third down conversion percentage. Previous low was 42%. BYU's defense was outstanding on Saturday night, and rewatching the game ingrained that in my head. It was absolutely a joy to watch BYU's defense do what they did against Kansas. Outside of that opening drive that Kansas went 84 yards and scored that opening touchdown, BYU just absolutely locked the lid on Kansas and did not allow them to do anything really of significance. The other touchdown they scored came on that fluke play, the quick kick that went off the helmet of Evan Johnson, and it gets recovered on the 3-yard line. They punch it in for a touchdown, and that ends up being the game-winning touchdown. Crazy things happen in the game of football, but BYU's defense did more. I mean, more than its fair share to help BYU in hopes of getting a victory in this game. Special teams wise, nothing. There's nothing in the special teams that screamed to me that BYU failed in that department. Yes, they have had games where they've gotten touchdowns out of special teams, but those are essentially like a cherry on top of anything else. There was nothing in the special teams that hurt BYU. So where does the blame go in this loss for BYU? Well, there's a third phase of the game, and it's the offense that cost BYU in this one. Rewatching the game, yes, there are play calling issues. There's execution lacking. Jake Retzlaff's quarterback play at times left a lot to be desired. But the biggest thing to me is there was a statement made by Chase Roberts in the postgame press conference that he said all week long in practice, BYU had struggles scoring, especially when it came to red zone practice type stuff. And when you say that, that tells me everything I need to know, it feels like, about this game, because BYU got in what I like to call the scoring zone. What is that? It's 30 yards and in. Traditionally, the red zone is 20 yards and in. BYU had 5 trips to what I term the scoring zone. That's the 30-yard line and in. 4 of those inside the 20, so inside the red zone. 2 of them inside the 10-yard line. And how many points out of those 5 trips does BYU get? Of a possible 35, just 13. That is abysmal. That is unacceptable. And it is absolutely something BYU must, and I mean must, rectify when they go into this matchup against Arizona State on Saturday night. You cannot and you will not win many games scoring just 13 points, especially when you get into scoring territory as often as they did and come up empty or come away with just 3 points. It's got to be better. And for Chase Roberts to lift the lid on that in the post-game press conference, very revealing to hear him say that we had issues scoring in practice, because I am a firm believer that you play the way that you practice. And is BYU's defense taking it too hard on BYU's offense? It shouldn't be that way. But here's the thing. BYU's offense, have they bought into their own hype? Did they eat the rat poison, as Nick Saban liked to talk about? Did they read their own press clippings and feel like, you know what, we got this thing on lockdown? They got a major slice of humble pie, and that goes across the board, from Aaron Roderick to the other assistant coaches, to Jake Retzloff, to BYU's offensive line, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. Everybody involved with the BYU offense has to take a look in the mirror and go back to the drawing board and understand that they aren't, quote, all that. They've got to get back to doing what they were doing to have success early this season. There have been games that BYU has put up 30 points this season and made it look relatively easy. There's been other games like this most recent one where they have made it look like a slog on offense. There's no ready-made answer for me. I know, trust me, my social media feeds and the comments, all y'all want Aaron Roderick fired. Great. You can want that all you want at this juncture, but let's also remind you, BYU's 9-1, and I'm not sure that I've ever seen a football program anywhere fire their offensive coordinator after a 9-1 start. I know that's going to come off as me being an apologist for Aaron Roderick. So be it. I'll say unpopular things. That's part of this job, as I prognosticate and also analyze BYU football. They have a great opportunity going to Arizona State this week. It's going to be a tough game. Cam Scattaboo and the rest of the Arizona State Sun Devils, they are licking their chops, thinking, all right, we got a wounded animal, speaking of the BYU Cougars, coming to our hometown down there in Tempe, and we're going to upset them. We're going to punch our ticket to the Big 12 title game on the backs of that win. What does BYU have to do? They have got to buoy themselves up. They have to find answers, and they have to get back to work this week. Stop it with all of the interactions out there when it comes to the national media, because I don't think those are going to come this week. When you drop your first game of the year, suddenly nobody wants to talk to y'all. And that should help BYU refocus and hopefully re-energize themselves, particularly on offense, as they get ready for Arizona State. What else did I take away from BYU in that loss? Well, there's some good in there, because as there always is, there's not a game where you can't find a single positive out there. But the simple fact of the matter is, for the first time, I feel like all season long, BYU's offense did not uphold their mantra of playing complementary football. You got two of the three phases doing their part in playing complementary football, and the offense, it did not do its job. That needs to change, because if it doesn't change, BYU can find themselves quickly on the heels of a 2-loss slide and suddenly find themselves relying on tiebreakers and having to rely on other teams out there to get them to Arlington. So, bad news, offense was not good against Kansas. Zero doubt about that. There's blame to be shared across the board. Jake Retzloff missed opportunities with his throws. Aaron Roderick, some curious play calls. I also thought there was execution issues offensive line-wise. The false start from Connor Pay late in this game, is he's still checking the alignment when that snap is called for by Jake Retzloff. It's inexcusable. It went from 4th and 6 to 4th and 11 and all but sealed BYU's fate. Those are critical errors, and it really did in BYU's hopes of another late comeback win. And the pressure should be off them now. So now that, like I said, they've got to refocus and get back to work and hopefully have a much better week of practice offensively, and hopefully start scoring a little bit when it comes to their practice opportunities, because once again, I think that translates directly over to when you take the field in real live game action.